We are live. Spoilers in this video. Welcome to Thoughts Season 1 Sarah Connor Chronicles show Terminator. That is still a mouthful. I'm trying to word it so that people who only see the first couple of words, like if you've got just the thumbnail, that you can still tell what it is. Yeah. So, right. This contains spoilers, including for earlier entries in this franchise. It's a long video, but there are time codes for different sections in the description box. Since I've done other videos on the subject, though the links for those will be in the description box, and I will try not to restate in this what I said there. Now, first the off-topic stuff, and I didn't note this, but so I'm saying it first so I don't forget to say it. I haven't watched it yet, but Renegade Cut just put up a video entitled Fine, I'll Talk About Aquaman, so I'm really looking forward to watching that. Now, the ones I did take notes. In a recent College Humor video, I believe it was the one where they point out that, nerds won't let girl nerds, in. They won't, they even have the line about, you're a nerd if you're, My Little Pony is nerd stuff if you're, a middle-aged dude, but not if you're a 12-year-old girl. Anyway, in that video, the you know, I'm sorry, she's still so new that I'm having trouble remembering her name, but she's great. She says, if you don't think Steve is a magical creature, I feel sorry for you. And I've had at least one girlfriend who would 100% agree with her on that. So that's, yeah. I really love how direct Renegade Cut is these days. His recent video about Saudi Arabia and the WWE is excellent. But here's the thing, I don't care. And the, scene here doing this or that got increasingly hilarious. Near the end, I thought I was going to have a heart attack, and it would have been worth it. And about the Navy making sure that Trump didn't see the ship with the name John McCain on it, first she says, oh, it didn't happen, and then she says, Trump didn't know, which is very zen. If you don't know that someone was doing something for you, was it actually done at all? And Trump immediately contradicts her and then spends forever talking about how much he hates John McCain, which is really making him look guilty, or at least making it very clear why others would think they had to do that for him. And Kim Jong-un just had executed several diplomats, and the Young Turks point out that Trump has said several times that he loves Kim Jong-un, and I mean, if Trump could get away with having people executed, he still wanted the Central Park Five executed after it was known for a fact that they were innocent. So I doubt he's upset about this. At most, he'll probably be frustrated that he has to pretend to care. Laura Ingraham and her guest said, welcome to the internet. Now that people are criticizing the montage was criticized for being misleading, for lying. Conservatives whine about the internet nonstop, when a lot of the time, all we're doing is quoting them, pointing out things they've done. I'm not going to claim that there are no lies or exaggerations from my wing, but the vast majority of what I've seen is just true statements. Now, let's see, right, to more effectively, I'm going to have to do this, and yeah, here we go. So, let's see, if I do this, it's going to go, yeah. Sometimes I'm not the biggest fan of Microsoft Word. So, that brings, let's see, is it, I think I'm going to go ahead and do a little bit of a zoom. Yeah. Okay, so, almost ready to get into the actual content here. So, that brings us to pilot. And there we go. It's really too bad when it's just entitled pilot. I like when pilots have an actual title to them. Anyway, yes, I am doing, before I get into my own notes, I will read aloud the episode, what's it called, the plot description, at least for this one, since there are, nine episodes. Next one's going to have 22, I want to say. So that one, we'll see if I do it there. In 1999, after the events of Terminator Judgment Day, Sarah Connor and her son John Connor are fugitives from the police and FBI. The series opener, Sarah and John move to a small town in New Mexico. Terminator named Cromartie attacks John's school. Reprogrammed Terminator named Cameron transports Sarah and John to the year 2007, where they will battle Skynet. Meanwhile, FBI agent James Ellison becomes obsessed with finding Sarah. Now, I'm gonna jump right into it. Great opener. And immediately we're seeing images that remind us of the first two movies, The Road in the Dark, and Sarah looking somewhat similar to how she did in the first. According to the audio commentary, that really is a waitress outfit. I guess they changed somewhere between 1984 and 1999. I don't really go to a lot of places that have waitresses, so I don't notice it. And I was not born in 1984. So I definitely wasn't going to any places back then. Now, I mean, it is one of those things, like, like they say on the commentary track, some people were confused about what she's wearing there, but that is what a waitress outfit looks like today. And it is one of those things where, they have a choice between dressing her the way she was in the first movie in 1984 for a scene that, I mean, it is clearly, the scene is not taking place in 1984 because John, excuse me, it's going to look like I'm pretending to be an airplane, but I'm just trying to make sure. Yeah, I'm fairly well censored. Not politically. I'm very, very left wing. Anyway, the yeah, John is so this is a nightmare wherein she is still a waitress or at least dressed like one. In yeah, I mean, yeah, the scene is taking place in 1999, I think. Sorry, the dream. The time set for the dream. Yeah, I think you get what I'm getting at here. You really should. I'm sorry to say. The yes. So I've been rewatching Face to Face recently, and I can really understand Weird Al's frustration with the guests sometimes really not. Anyway, yes. So, are they gonna have her dressed in a 1984 waitress outfit in a scene that clearly is set in 1999? Or are they gonna confuse people who don't think too much about, waitresses? You don't necessarily really look at them, it's like, yeah. So anyway, and a dog barks in the background, and of course it means there's a Terminator. Are the people John Wick go up against Terminators? Because they're always killing his dog, I feel like. I've heard. I haven't watched those movies. I probably will at some point, but there are a lot of movies. This year, 3 movies in the MCU. 1 Terminator movie, 1 Rambo movie. Let's see, what were the others? 1 Men in Black movie, 1 X-Men movie, 1 Tarantino movie. That's 8 movies. If they were evenly spread out, that's almost, yeah, that's more than 1 every 2 months. That's plenty for me for going to the movie theater. I want it to stay special. I don't want it to be something I do every single, like, once a week or something. That's no. Anyway, and Sarah easily tricks the cops. He's looking at her legs, and yeah, and yeah, and she, you know, takes him out very easily because he's so distracted, and he genuinely thinks, I mean, she's a waitress. What's she gonna do? Now let's see. Is that gonna be a problem? Excuse me for a second. Yeah, I think that might help. Very, very cool. That one of the very first things we see in the show is the Terminator firing a shotgun and dual wielding submachine guns, firing at police cars and the cops inside of it, which is actually, yeah, I hadn't really thought of it, but it's the first time we see that in one of these. Again, I'm not spoiling, I'm only spoiling the show up to this point and the first three movies. But yeah, we've seen we've seen evil Terminators gunning down police, and we've seen good reprogrammed Terminators firing at police cars in order to get the cops to leave. But this is really the first time that we've seen cops inside cop cars gunned down by a Terminator. So that's a nice little twist on the, yeah. And I do think I like the decision that it is very clearly a dream, because the way that, you see the Terminator, and he, like, I mean, him, let's see, from what I recall, keeping in mind it's been 2 weeks since I watched the pilot episode last time, but doesn't he gets out the shotgun, he fires that, then he throws it away, and I mean, basically, like, reaches behind his back and out come the submachine guns or something. I mean, I'm pretty sure he doesn't take them from. We don't see him take them from somewhere where it would make sense that he got them from. So it's very clear that what we're watching is one of Sarah Connor's frequent nightmares about this. So yeah, I think it would have been frustrating if the first scene was not only a dream sequence, which I don't think that's a bad idea, but if it was a dream sequence and it was a fake out dream sequence, I think that would have been frustrating. If the show had opened on something that immediately is like undone, but right from the start, we can tell this is definitely a dream. I mean, just from the fact, I don't buy that Sarah Connor would ever work as a waitress again. That really doesn't seem at all. It's a dream. So in her mind, because she's having a nightmare wherein she cannot protect John, and I mean we see it in Terminator 2 as well. When Sarah Connor has a nightmare about being unable to protect John, she imagines herself still as a waitress, because at yeah in you know, at the start of the first Terminator movie, she is essentially helpless. I think it's James Cameron who says in like a featurette or something, she's almost already a victim. She's, yeah, she seems completely, and in Terminator 2, the nightmare involves that she's also, her present day, essentially prepared but currently incarcerated version is stuck behind of a chain link, do not think a chain link fence, and she's like, shaking it, and then the camera cuts, and then we see that at the end of the music video, it was actually the homophobes who were behind the chain link fence the entire time. I've never understood why they needed to use Linda Hamilton's twin for that scene, because do you ever actually see both of them, like, clearly? I mean, you do that at the end of the movie when the T-1000 is in the front, and then the real Sarah Connor's in the back. Okay, there you need, either, like, you need effects, or you need two, you need twin actors. Anyway, but yeah, I quite like the dream opening. It's, some might say, why do we need to see this again? But it's why she leaves. It's why she leaves Charlie Dixon. If the episode just opened with her just immediately leaving Charlie Dixon, we need, it's a catalyst. She has the nightmare again, and yeah, I really like the choice of actor for the Terminator. He does look like someone who could disappear into a crowd, but also fairly muscular and, as such, reminiscent of Arnie. I mean, they basically found if Arnold Schwarzenegger and Robert Patrick had a kid together, it's if Robert Patrick was the father of the baby that Arnold is carrying. I want to say the movie's called Junior, but it's been so long, not too long, but very long since I watched that movie. Yeah, Arnold Schwarzenegger's been in some terrible comedies, and one of them was called Twins. So that's yeah. Anyway, yeah, that's this is more or less what that kid would look like. What, yeah, when he grew up to an adult. And the Terminator's pistol makes the same sound that the Terminator pistol made in the first movie in the mono version, not the stereo version. I mean, I don't know whose decision that was, but clearly someone is, like, we're talking hardcore fan. Like, I thought I was the only one who remembered that before I watched that. I had actually forgotten that they did that. Last time I watched this pilot was for when Genesis came out in 2015. Back then, I only owned the first two movies on DVD, and I had the yeah, this first season of this show, but the other ones I didn't. You know, those I only got more recently. I have forgotten between 2015 and now that, yeah, that's the exact same gun sound as and I mean, it's still essentially, yeah, it's still the wrong gun sound essentially. It's just, when they made the first movie, James Cameron wanted something that sounded really powerful, similar to how, the sound of the Winchester in the second movie is also way off. They wanted something that sounded really muscular and powerful for the Arnie Terminator. The James Cameron has said, if the Arnold Terminator is essentially a Panzer tank, you know, so yeah, it should be very imposing. And I mean that sound, I'm fairly certain that sound belongs to a revolver, like a Colt Python or something. And it's a 45 long slide in the 1984 movie, and then in this episode, if I recall, it's a Desert Eagle. So still the wrong gun sound, but it's really cool. And I mean, technically, I think it is probably closer to a Desert Eagle than a 45, but it's been a long time since I read up on guns, so I'm a little rusty. But I mean, yeah, that means that whoever made that decision has watched the pre-DVD release version, the VHS copy with mono sound of the first Terminator movie, and remembered that gun sound and wanted to do an homage to it. That's really really cool. It's not like the show is full of homages, and I've been reading in preparation for the Terminator Genesis review. I'm reading the critics reviews, and some have said that there are too many references, and it's not handled that well. And I would say the show does a better job. If you watch the show and you've never watched the movies, they won't, you know, I think if you watch Genesis, if you go in blind, at least some of the references are gonna feel a little awkward. It's like, why was that filmed like that? Why did that happen like that? Why did that character say that? And I don't think it would be in this. I have learned my lesson, so I'm gonna go ahead and make sure. Let's see. I am making a note to add that point to the review. And I apologize for what is essentially dead air. And yeah, next time I'm going to make sure to have piece of paper with more free space to write on for this eventuality. Actually, I guess that one, yeah. And here we go. Excuse me. Yeah, this paper has more space on it for that kind of thing. Right. So yeah, you know, tons of references, but they're more, they feel more organic, you know. But yeah, like the regular pistol that they might use, you know, the all four of them, I guess. Does John? I can't offhand remember if John wields a gun, but certainly Sarah, Cameron, and Derek do. And yeah, they, you know, it varies, but they might whip out a Beretta. And that's, you know, the Beretta 92 is fairly, you know, it's a good gun, so you might, but that is the gun that, excuse me, that is the pistol that the T-1000 uses. I don't, yeah, he never uses a different pistol in the entire second movie. So, you know, I would say it's very likely that, you know, they watched the movies very carefully, noted exactly what guns are used, and yeah, I think the two-step machine guns that the Terminator uses in this dream is also one of the ones that maybe the SWAT team use in the second movie. Is it an MP5? Yeah, I'm sorry, I'm having trouble. Wait, MP5. Yeah, whatever. So back to the notes I took while. Huh, I didn't realize that one. I guess it's not a problem that it's in shot. If you can see, yeah, this little yellow thing, that's the spotlight for my face. With John dead, Sarah is ready to die, and the Terminator even points out, you know, you're right. All is lost without him. And the nuclear explosions go off in the distance and tear off the flesh, yeah, from the bones, like in Sarah's nightmare in T2. And you know, before we see it tear the flesh off her, which we do only see very briefly, but we do see it very clearly for the Terminator skeleton. Or do we even see it for her, or is just it's implied that that's what's going to happen? But something like, yeah. Let's see. Now, I guess. Hmm. Let's see. Yeah, let's see. This note I ended up also putting in the review file, the review notes, but I think, yeah, I'm going to go ahead and read it here as well. I realize it's probably a budget issue, but when the show has full-on yeah, I wrote T800, but I guess they're T888 Terminator skeletons, I'm going to go with that. Walking around, they're not completely convincing. I wish that they would shoot around, just film close-ups of physical props. Really, it's physical, like, is that a prop? And anyway, you know, the you know, at the end of the first movie, when you see Kyle, you know, you see Kyle with the steel, what's it called? Steel pipe. You know, he'll like hit it on the head, and its head will go off to the side and such. For those shots, it's, you know, a crew member carrying, you know, basically a metal skeleton. I'm not sure it's actually metal, but you know, I kind of wish they would do that on the show, but I get that that's also an issue. Like, if they did that, it would basically, they would have to know for sure we're going to use this a bunch, because it's, although they don't, the one they build for the one that we see about to be melted actually doesn't. I'm not sure we see that one again, but then that one's built to look good. that one might have been like crazy heavy or really, really difficult. If they didn't know for sure that they were going to use, and I do realize some of the shots they do definitely want, like that dream or fantasy sequence of Sarah's where she, basically, yeah, she imagines herself in the room with all the scientists who built the atom bomb, and she shoots them all, and then they get up and point guns at her, and I mean, they wanted the image of like, let's see, if Sarah's like here in the middle, Terminators all around the, yeah, I think you get my point. They didn't want to have to only do like close-ups for that. They wanted that image, and it is a, it's, we see her truly surrounded. That is genuinely a compelling image. So yeah, and that's also an image that, it's possible that James Cameron would have put something like that in one of the movies if he thought he could get that to look really good. But anyway, but yeah, I realized that if they used physical prop, I'm gonna go with prop. I forget what they're actually called. The yeah, they would of course have very limited expression and mobility, but I do think it's too bad. Shots like when the like when Cromartie, you know, disrobes in front of that scientist who's, he's got that skin. Yeah, I don't think it would have hurt if that shot hadn't shown the entire metal skeleton, and if it had been a closer shot. Like when we see it, we can tell exactly the yeah, we could tell down to the fraction of a second exactly when it cuts from a person doing like this with clothes to a CG skeleton. And I think it would have been really cool if they had a shot of like, I mean, they have that shot where, he takes off the mask and then you see it's like the dead head of that one dude because he doesn't have the skull yet. That's super cool. And I think it would have been really cool if that had been, yeah, essentially something like that. Not necessarily, maybe not the face, but like if he had started to take off the coat and then you see this metal skeleton right underneath, which they could have done if they had, even if it is like a close up and some poor guy's carrying it on his back. Yeah. And Sarah says no one is ever safe, which later in the episode, Cameron says we'll be safe there, and John and Sarah both chime in with no one is ever safe. Half an hour, one bag plus the guns. I'll make pancakes. I really do love this. When they go, Sarah will just seamlessly go from like, I guess, homemaker basically to this, you know I mean, I guess it's the word is essentially like, crap, what are they called again? Doomsday. Yeah, some it has a specific word, but yeah, like someone who's prepared to. Yeah, so there we go. Now, right, 10 minutes in, and the show explains the backstory from the movies, in case you're watching the show and you haven't watched them. And I mean, I don't know. I feel like people when you heard there was a show. If you watched the movies, you'd be especially interested. But yeah, I can imagine that there were people who came into it. And I mean, let's see, the show, was it 2007 or 8? It wasn't 9, was it? It was somewhere around there. One of those years was when it started. Like, people would probably remember the third movie. And the third movie does explain the concerns. People who went into this having only watched the third movie would be like, why is Sarah a character and why isn't Kate? I was about to say who's Sarah, but they do actually, they, if you, although they don't say her name that many times, do they? But they do at least once. Arnie says Sarah Connor was cremated, so they wouldn't be completely confused, but yeah, they'd be like, why am I not seeing Kate? Why is Sarah a character if they hadn't watched the first two movies? But yeah, you can, I forget, I might have already written that in the notes, but yeah, you can go in blind. I apologize. I realize a lot I'm jumping from the notes to taking other notes, but anyway, yeah, and I feel like exposition dumps are very frequently like, it's an effective way of getting information across to the audience, but it is very, they can be very awkward and very obvious, and especially when, like, when the moment you have someone working in law enforcement just say, okay, so here's the facts of the case, like, in real life they do that all the time, but the moment you have it in a show or a movie, it can get kind of awkward and obvious. I feel like they do a good job here, and I mean, at the end of the day, if Ellison doesn't explain, I mean, he's trying to paint a picture. You don't really know Sarah Reese. Not only, it's not just the last name, but you genuinely know, you have no idea who this woman is. And you should, because once you do, you're gonna realize you have to help me stop her. She's already killed. I mean, if you don't know, if you live in the Terminator universe and you don't know about the killer robots, Sarah Connor is a domestic terrorist. She blew up a, this huge building, and I mean, they don't know for sure that she wasn't the one, blowing up police cars and such. But certainly, it's not like she came out publicly afterwards and said that guy held me as a hostage. No, they presume he was an ally of hers, and yeah, so it's, yeah, and I want to say I really appreciate that they had Ellison. I mean, even before this season is over, he believes in the robots and the Robopocalypse, which I think he would have been an incredibly frustrating character, if not. This is something I was also very happy to learn when watching Dexter. When the moment that I found, I didn't know anything about the show going in. So when I saw in the pilot that, oh, he's with someone, and it's like, no, it's a cover. She doesn't, they don't have an intimate relationship. I'm not going to give away anything for Dexter. I'm just saying, in the pilot, very, very early in the first season, this is not a spoiler, I promise you that, you see that Rita is not just going to be the character that the audience is really worried that she's going to find out who Dexter really is. That character, that kind of character, is so obnoxious. And it's like, I find that I don't think that we should have very many characters who are just foils for other characters. They should be interesting. And yeah, Ellison comes to realize that Sarah is right. And I mean, that is the thing. And I mean, even Silverman, by the end of the second movie, by the middle of the second movie, I guess, he knows about the robots. I mean, for sure he can't pretend that yeah. And he even says it in this season, you know, there's no way that thing was human, and let's see. So yeah, so that was one thing. Oh, I meant to voice type note this, but Cameron actually flashed a smile when she was, when she almost left the group in the museum. Instead of just saying, instead of just going back to the, she actually smiled. So yeah, so sometimes I guess she calculated that it was important to not. Actually, that does make a lot of sense, because if that teacher like turned around and looked, like, if he, I mean, I think at that point the guy working for Sarkisian, we never actually hear him speak. We hear his voice, but that's Cameron imitating. Anyway, the moment that, yeah, I think he had turned a corner there. But if he went back and the teacher was like staring directly at him, then Cameron is screwed, and so is John. So it makes a lot of sense for her to very quickly go to, just smile and say sorry, turn around, go back to the group. Anyway, yes, back to my notes. I like how Cameron is acting very charming around John. How very apropos, excuse me. Cameron's acting very charming around John to get close to him so he doesn't figure out she's a Terminator, because really, like, if he got the if she wasn't acting charming and he was just like, this is a Terminator, I mean, she's not gonna get very many chances to the when he finds out that she's a Terminator for sure, he's literally just seen her ram Cromartie with her car, and she opens the door, come with me if you want to live, which is of course something that yeah, the let's see, yeah, I did note it, but I wanted to briefly go into detail. Obviously, and that's the case in Terminator 2 as well. Sarah told John, Kyle said, come with me if you want to live, and I agreed there, but I didn't trust him right away. And yeah, like the obviously when John reprogrammed the Terminator in T2, and when he reprogrammed Cameron, he told it, when you approach, whether it's Sarah or whether it's me, when you approach, say, come with me if you want to. Actually, yeah, in T2, I guess he specifically said, when you see Sarah, tell her this. But yeah, yeah. But by this point, you know, and anyway, actually, I guess it's possible that if instead in T2 it's get down, and then he starts, yeah. So it's, I'm pretty sure that's the first thing he says. But yeah, John can immediately tell this is a Terminator. Anyway, the yeah, it's a really good way to make sure that they trust Cameron. I know Summer Glau from 4400 and this show, so seeing her be charming is very unusual to me. I'm very used to her being this kind of, which is, I mean, when I've seen, like, she sounds charming on audio commentaries. She looks very charming out of character on Blu-ray special features. So I mean, yeah, it's she's clearly, I do always feel bad for people like that. Is also Lena Headey. She's so cute when out of character in special features and such, but then she plays these hard ass characters who are really, yeah, I when I think Lena Headey, the very first thing that comes to my mind is 300. But this is the very second thing. I haven't watched Game of Thrones yet, so I might at some point, even though I hear that the finale is incredibly disappointing, and I feel your pain. I'm not surprised, but I do feel your pain. It's very rare that finales are good. Anyway, but yeah, in this, she's this very kind of, yeah, robotic and not quite human. Nothing human comes naturally to her. And on the 4400, I'm not gonna spoil anything on that show, but she is this, yeah, I yeah. I'm just gonna leave it there. People who've watched the show know what I'm talking about. And we're told she doesn't want him near a computer because she thinks he's gonna hack and would be caught, which would obviously get them unwanted attention. Let's see. And when Sarah asks, did you? I forget her exact phrasing, but something like, "Did you meet a girl?" or something. And John doesn't want to admit about Cameron. And we see John really open up to Cameron. Even from just when he walks in, you can tell the temp is a Terminator. They did find someone who looks a lot like Garrett, who will play Cromartie after this episode. I looked it up. Apparently, Garrett Hedlund, yeah, I'm pretty sure that's his name. Apparently, he's listed as playing Cromartie like after this episode for the rest of season 1 before he plays Laszlo. So I guess that really is him when we don't see his face, when he's just, which makes a lot of sense. That's always been too a little bit of an unfortunate. I mean, I'd say that the stunt guys playing Jason Voorhees, they did tend to get his movement and body language right. Although I would definitely say you can really tell when from the very moment Kane Hodder takes over is really like he yeah he is the absolute best of that. But anyway, and I don't at all blame them for not want like Kane Hodder. Well, I think I heard someone say on a DVD special feature he was the only guy crazy enough to want to play the role a second time. Everybody else was like, I'm not doing that again. It was just no. So yeah, that's anyway, yeah. Cromartie has very you can always recognize him. And yeah, I think it makes a lot of sense. And Garrett Hedlund is again, if one day, like, I guess, yeah, let's say that Garrett Hedlund was in some kind of accident, and they took him to the emergency room, and they were maybe like, they maybe expected that some some of his bones were broken because it was such a bad injury or something, and they look at him and it's like, there's nothing, how could you possibly, and it turns out, oh, no, he's super, he 100% he is a robot. I really wouldn't be surprised. I'd be like, in that case, I think he did a pretty good job playing human when he wasn't, acting in movies. But yeah, the 4400, the road, he's really, anyway. Yeah. So the Cromartie you can always recognize immediately. No matter what, and yeah, later in the season when Cameron scans, I mean, yeah, the face, it's like, I already mentioned that I'm going to be watching the new Men in Black movie. In that first movie, his skin is like sagging from his face because because he's an Edgar bug, and that's the kind of thing you want to avoid as a Terminator. So the you're gonna try to use a face that looks a lot like, that fits the kind of skeleton. the skull. And yeah, there's a it's an actual, they really do look a lot alike. I mean, between the pilot and when we see George Laszlo, I mean, that's like 2 or 3 episodes, isn't it? The moment I saw Laszlo, I was like, okay, yeah, this guy, this is Cromartie. You know, at the start, you think he's already taken over as Laszlo, and then he starts acting a little more human, and then you, oh, okay, it's not. But and then you actually see the anyway. But yeah, you see the you know, the skull looks a lot like the facial structure looks a lot like Garrett Hedlund. But yeah, just the way that he walks and his face and the whole thing, you know, yeah, clearly, you know, I'm gonna call him Temp Cromartie, because so that you know whether I'm referring to Cromartie in general or this specific, you know, so that I can comment on this actor as well. But yeah, the way he, it's yeah, immediately. And I think they do also play some music. I mean, the audience is supposed to know immediately, you know, and John is a little, I mean, he's meeting a lot of people. He can't look at every single one of them very carefully and be like, it's not a Terminator, you know. So yeah, and they didn't think that it would be found just like that. They thought they were doing a good enough job hiding, blending in. And you know, the I forget if I actually have heard some say, but I could imagine that some were like, if he's trying to hide, why is he using the same first name as before? And I think it I think you can forgive that one, because at the end of the day, he's like what, 15? If he constantly has to get used to being called by a different first name, you know, that could be a bit, yeah, you know, that would be very difficult for him to adjust to, and he already has to memorize all this, you know, new background. That part is easier, you know, as long as he, but the moment that someone like calls your name and you don't expect them to, if they're calling you by a very different name, it might be a little more difficult, and that can get your cover blown. Nah. I like that these high school students immediately start trying to mess with the temp, and it doesn't quite work out. You know, they don't know that the temp is a tempinator, but they're, you know, he's like, yeah, he says, yeah, Mr. Ferguson is ill today. I'll be taking over this class. My name is Cromartie. Is that your only name? Like Madonna? Why? No. You know, and they all, the like the students all laugh, but then it kind of ends there, and they were like, they were hoping to get a little bit more. They were hoping that he would be like, you know, they can't believe these kids, but it's, you know, he's, and at first he's like, why is why would she want to know if I have more than one name? You know, that's a, and I do also really like, I mean, that is a thing that the other, yeah, this is the first place that you see, you know, in yeah, I'm not going to talk about later movies, but this is the first time, and I don't know about like books and such or video games. I've played almost none of the Terminator video games, which is a fact that keeps me awake at night. Seriously though, I really enjoy the ones that I have played. Anyway, and I'd like to play the rest. Anyway, this is the first time in one of the movies or the show, and it's right here in the pilot, that they actually give Terminators names. You know, you've got Cromartie, Cameron, Vick. I don't think that it was necessary in the movies as such. And you know, they always they refer to them by the you know, in the first one, the yeah, I guess they never really call it, and yeah, they just say that thing or the Terminator, or you know, such. I guess if they were going to try to name it. It's in part because there's only that one. You know, it's not like they ever talk about more than one Terminator. So they don't really need to, I guess Kyle would probably refer to it as a Model 101. They don't use the word T-800 in the first movie. Anyway, yeah. So the that's what was I gonna say? The and then the second one, they you know they refer to the evil one as T1000, which is its model number, and then the TX is called TX. Yeah, so anyway, I think it makes a lot of sense. The moment that someone, like, yeah, the moment that they actually give a name of any kind, it just feels more like, yeah, the I mean, I guess, like, in the second one, I mean, who asks a cop what their name is? You'd have to be really confident in your, you know, to be like, what's your name? You know, that would seem kind of aggressive, but yeah, ultimately it would probably, if you talk to other cops, he might have to give a name. We never see him challenged on his identity by other cops. He talks to other cops, but never for very long. Anyway, yeah, I think it was a very good way to, because right there, immediately, they, they can talk about Cameron without her being there, and we'll know who they're talking about. Instead of them just saying her or she every single time, they can talk about Cromartie. And just, yeah, you have all these, yeah, so anyway. And you see Cameron step into the line of fire, take a few bullets, and then fall down. Not very long after, you see, you don't see her get back up, but you see that she has gotten back up. And, taking, being hit by bullets or slugs or the like, and, yeah, going on, not dying, that's one of the first clear signs that Arnold was a Terminator in the first movie. I'd say that when you see him hit by the shotgun slugs in you pretty much already know this guy. There's no way this guy's quite human. You don't necessarily, if you go into it not knowing it's about a killer robot who looks like a human, you might not guess that it's a robot, but you're pretty, okay, that guy's not human. He's, the way he's behaving is not human. But yeah, I really like that the very first, immediately you get that indication. And I like the Cromartie. I wish they had him use something that seemed sharper, because the he uses, he literally used, at least it looks like, and I don't think he brought it in there with him. It was already, was it on the desk or maybe in a drawer of the desk? He uses a letter opener to cut open his leg. And I just feel like, I guess maybe they made very soft skin there, but other than that, the Terminators don't appear to have skin that's softer than human, and flesh too. I mean, I guess if he had been shot there, it would also make a hole there. But anyway, yeah. So but that is a cool way to reveal. He starts taking attendance, and he gets, he jabs his thigh with it and starts cutting, and almost immediately you see it, again. The audience knows. They don't. I guess I don't offhand remember, but are there? I'm not entirely sure there are very many Terminators on the show that you don't immediately recognize as Terminators. Like when Vick gets up in the in the Resistance hideout, you're not like, that's weird. One of the Resistance fighters is fighting, and he seems very non-human. You're like, oh, it's a Terminator. So yeah, the show doesn't really spend a lot of time kind of, yeah. Anyway, the yeah, so he's taking attendance. John Reese, right? That's what. Yeah, and I also that's a sweet little that they're going by the name Reese as a yeah. And I mean the with the Terminators know to look for a Reese. I don't that do they know that Kyle is his father? I mean, it would seem they don't. Because if they do, why don't they kill? He's like 5 years old. We see him in the season finale, and he's 5 years old. If they wanted to kill him, I'm sorry, this got really dark, but I'm saying, yeah, clearly they don't know. Or they don't think that it would make a difference to kill Kyle. Yeah, anyway. John Reese here, and he just gets out the gun from the, and it's like I think I saw in the fact they suggest IMDb referring to asked questions, they suggested maybe the school has metal detectors, and it was a way to get past if he walks past and it goes like I mean yeah they have that joke and she has a plate in her head, it's a very big plate or something like that, yeah. So the yeah, if he goes through and he says, it's a war wound, I've got steel in my hip or something, that, I mean, he can literally, he can take off, like, if they're like, we gotta, remove your shirt, we gotta pat you down, they're not gonna find it. So, yeah, and it's just, it's, for a show that has a lot of references to the movies, that is something we haven't seen anything quite like that, and it is something that feels like it's something a Terminator might do. Just yeah. I mean, in general, if he has to always hide a pistol on him, then he has to be very careful about what he's wearing and all this stuff, and just being able to hide it like that. And he also doesn't expect, like, he expects to be able to kill John very easily. He doesn't expect to have to blend in, which is obviously something where him having a, like Ellison points out, we have 22 witnesses who all say a shooter with some kind of robotic leg, you know. And that is also, see, I don't know for sure, but it doesn't look like CGI to me. When you see the inside of his leg and you see like stuff moving in there, that looked very real. That was incredibly cool. And he's just class dismissed. So the yeah, I forget if I put in any of the notes, but I respect anyone who would say that it is offensive or borderline offensive to have the Terminator attack in a school. In 2007, 8, 9, yeah, there were school shootings, and it's, fortunately they're extremely common today, but I understand anyone who would say that that's, and it was unnecessary. It didn't have to be in a school. I put that in the review as well. And yeah, yeah. So but I mean, just being able to look inside a, you know, yeah, being able to see in the robotic inner thigh, yeah, the robotic thigh of one of these is very similar to how in the first movie Arnold cuts his arm open in order to repair that, and we see the metal in there moving, the finger ones going back and forth and such. Now, and Cromartie knocked over a school bus and got on top for a better view. And they talk about on the commentary track, like, there was this guy who said for, I don't remember, $200 or something, I'll knock over that school bus for you. And they were like, that would be cool, and it makes sense. It really, I mean, the once he's on top of the school bus, he has a better view, period. And if he just climbed on top of the school bus without knocking it over, he risks, if John can, like, pick the lock or something, if he can get into the bus and start driving away, then Cromartie is screwed. But if he knocks it over, there's no such, yeah. And Sarah hears something important to her on the news, much like in the first movie. And Cromartie has several vision modes, including heat vision, very cool. And again, it makes a lot of sense. And actually, I mean, that is a thing that in the first movie, they turn on, like, this automated sequence to distract, to keep the Terminator from being able to track them, which must mean that he goes by movement. He tracks movement, not heat, because these machines can't possibly give off this heat signature similar to a human being. So he'd easily be able to, yeah. So again, it's an upgrade from the T800, at least from the first one. Let's see. Yeah, and Cameron ran over Cromartie, backs up, and says, "Come with me if you want to live." And now she's being very robotic. I like Cromartie being run over so much better than the TX being run over. It's just, yeah, it's a way more satisfying scene. And let me think. There was also another thing I wanted to mention here. Let's see. I guess, and the let's see. In the first two movies, yeah, in the first one, the Terminator gets run over by the truck, and let's see, in the second one, I'm not offhand sure the Terminator gets run over. Anyway, and Sarah is ready to kill herself to keep John safe, but Cromartie prevents her, and he imitates Sarah on the phone whilst holding Sarah by the throat so she can't cry out. And someone walks in wearing a hoodie and speaking in John's voice, but it turns out to be Cameron, so she can get really close to Cromartie. I was a very, I mean, I would say personally, I had a feeling that it was, Cameron, but it's also not something that, it doesn't wait forever for the payoff. Great robot on robot fight with Cameron, aided by Sarah using a shotgun. I quite like that they go through the floor, which is, oh yeah, sorry, that's in Terminator 3 as well. So technically, yeah. So it's not something we hadn't seen before at all. But I like it better. I'm not gonna say everything I like better here than in Terminator 3. I don't think there's anything that I like better in Terminator 3 than in the show. So anyway, in some ways, I love the show almost as much as I love the first movie. Yeah. Excuse me. Yeah. It's all cards on the table. I love this show way more than I love the second. I respect the second movie. It definitely, it is very, very well made. And I used to love it, but I don't anymore. I don't like how it treats the iconic stuff from the first one. But let's see, the but yeah, I think even when I still love even when I love Terminator 2, I love this show better than Terminator 2. From right away. I didn't note it, but I like that in the, in the last bit of the season finale, you have the yeah, they put it on the commentary track. I'm not sure I would really quite have noticed otherwise, but yeah, they're at the end. Cameron is dressed both as the Terminator from the first movie and Johnny Cash. So that's a great little. I guess just briefly, I want to say, I guess it was like a budget thing, and ultimately, I don't think the season finale was quite as big. I mean, for example, the pilot is way bigger, way more action, and they're both 43 minutes long. So yeah, the just plain and simple, the season finale is not quite as big, and I don't. I think it would maybe have been cool if Cromartie taking out the SWAT happened at least a little later in the episode, like if it was closer to Cameron being blown up, and yeah. Now, let's see. And Cameron electrocutes Cromartie with a wire, and Cameron jumped onto the car, and Cameron says about Cromartie, 120 seconds until the system reboots, which is true not only in this episode. That's such a great, right there, immediately we have something that we can really, you know, that's it's a set in stone rule kind of thing, and then you can just, yeah, then you, every time you see a robot in on the show temporarily be taken out, immediately think, okay, so 120 seconds until the system reboots. Excuse me. I'm just gonna put that in here as well. Huh. That's weird sound. Let's see. Let's see. Here we go. And Cameron points out, they'd have found you anyway, they always do. And we see Cromartie covering up his wounds, such as duct tape on the robot leg. I can't keep running, I can't. I'm not who they think I am, some messiah. And John talks Sarah into fighting Skynet, and when Cameron is told, she gives a slight smile, which must be genuine since it's after John walks away. It's not for anybody's benefit other than the audience. So, yeah, that must have been completely natural. In the future, you have many friends. I appreciate that the show lets Sarah tell Miles' widow that they didn't kill Miles, because obviously that is what it would look like to everybody else. She thought he was coming right back, and this, this is 4 years after. I'm glad Miles' widow and nearly orphaned kid actually get a little screen time, so they weren't recast just to be on the photos that Ellison showed Charlie, which I guess Miles himself was. And they run into Cromartie with the car, and he fires an assault rifle at them, but when he runs to the other car to try to catch up to them, Cameron triggers an explosive they placed in the car. They really think through how to prepare for fights against Terminators in this show, which is also something I want to note. This is, I did not expect to be talking for this long about, with so few of the notes. We're on page 5 of 46 of notes here. Anyway, and Sarah was hit. And I realize we're probably, we're not supposed to really notice or think about it, but, John is like trying to keep pressure on the wound. When he runs into the store, at least one of his palms is clearly bloody. I mean, is he really going to be able to just buy items and walk right back out? I guess they just really didn't think about that. Maybe hoped you wouldn't notice that his hand was bloody or something. But yeah, I don't have personal experience with it, but I don't think they would just let you walk right back out if you had a bloody palm. And what's that? Was it Reddit or Tumblr or someone put out? So many serial killers on the site. And we find out they opened the safety deposit box in the bank the same year the bank was established, just immediately. And Cameron immediately gets the guard's pistol and threatens her way to the safety deposit boxes. And there, I did briefly, excuse me, I did briefly think, could you really just walk right up, grab a gun off, stole it off a cop's belt, but then, it's not just that. I mean, let's say that he had like resisted, she would still have been able to very easily grab it. And basically, like, she probably knows exactly how to grab it in a way that by the time he realizes what's going on, she's already got the gun. Lock us in and then walk away from the door. I'll know if you don't. Yeah, that's, she can, with one of the vision modes, undoubtedly. Yeah, I mean, thermal vision, it's possible. Does it go through? And anyway, yeah, she'll open these boxes, put everything you find on the table carefully. That would be the way to handle this sort of thing. They can't bring weapons or equipment through the time machine, but if you travel back in time and then you get the things in their own time and then put them in safety deposit boxes, short of like, I want to say his name is Garrett, but it's been forever since I played those games. But yeah, short of a thief game happening, who's gonna go in and just start emptying all the safety deposit boxes that they can, And yeah, so that's, and really, if that had happened, they would have heard about it. I will say, it's too bad that they have to leave the gun behind, the grenade launcher. And I have to admit, the first time that Sarah said, "Don't you remember I blew up Cromartie?" I didn't realize at first that she actually fired that thing. I thought that he was like torn apart by the time travel. Anyway, Cameron very suddenly whips her head around, and we see it is Cromartie that is caught up, and he determines that the threat is none from the SWAT team's submachine guns. And yeah, the very sudden whipping of the head is also very similar to in T2 when Arnie is driving the motorcycle on the street. I mean, I don't remember if we find out in season 2, but I guess the reason Cromartie didn't shoot Ellison was that he determined that he wasn't a threat to him. I mean, he didn't even take Ellison's gun away. Anyway, it's probably something like that. Let's see. Yeah, and Cromartie, see, there's again, I don't proofread these anymore, I'm afraid, but yeah, Cromartie, I want to say he punches his way through the solid steel door. Cameron locked it specifically because Cromartie might catch up. And there's a time machine in the vault, and you open it via the retinal scan of Cameron. And later in the season, we also see that her retinal scan can access John's, you know, that one area for John which also has a time machine. And they travel to 2007. Other than that, the show needs them to be taped on that camera phone. Why did the Connors and Cameron stand perfectly still after the time travel for so long? I feel like it wouldn't have hurt to. In the first movie, Kyle says that it hurts to travel through time. And, I mean, part of it is also that he doesn't just, like, from Terminator, from T2 onward, when you travel through time, let's see, this is the ground, you are just on the ground. But in the first movie, Kyle, I mean, like, he, he arrives in midair and then falls, he does get up pretty fast considering that, but yeah, I feel like, I'm not saying that they should have arrived in midair, because that's no longer how it works as of the second movie, but I do think that just having some sort of, like, that they're in pain, and maybe it, like, takes a lot of your energy, so it feels like you've just run for a really long time. So they're, like, kind of sore, and, like, just they have to get their bearings or something. But in the show, it just kind of looks like they arrive and then they stand up, and they just stand there for a while. And I've never understood. The camera phone footage is a plot point, but other than that, and even that, it doesn't need them to stand still for that long. And a couple of a-holes walk up towards Cameron, and they're obviously going to touch her, whether she wants them to or not. And she beats them up, and the clothes are used for Cameron, John, and Sarah. And I appreciate that they acknowledge, obviously, these clothes would not fit the three of them perfectly, because that is something that's always been a bit. Yeah, I mean, I buy it with Robert Patrick, but. And actually, yeah, I guess the second movie, that guy is pretty big, but in the first movie, the excuse me, none of the three punks, including the one who gives up his clothes, is as big as Arnold. Excuse me. And the paramedic sees the amateur video of Sarah, and I thought that Ellison did, but excuse me, he only realizes in a later episode this season that she's there. But until that day, it's gonna be one hell of a dogfight. I think the show does a good job of explaining why this is the setup rather than them just hiding out in Mexico. Obviously, there wouldn't be a show in that, so they had to come up with some explanation. And I think this one works. The I guess, yeah, I'm not gonna recount it right now, but just the idea that they would try to stop Skynet from being created, and that I really like that instead of saying, oh, I mean, the second movie is set in 1995. So with this show, either they were going to have to set it, I mean, with how quickly tech, you know, changes, there's no way that the it would have been very unsatisfying to see them stuck in 1999 in a show that was made, you know, 8 years later. And them, if it was set then, and then we're just supposed to accept that in 12 years, John has only aged 4 years. But yeah, the whole thing with the, let's see, Cromartie, the one Terminator who's been, at the end of the pilot, clearly he, yeah, I think we see the red eye turn on before the pilot is completely over. So we know that Cromartie isn't completely done for. Now, the pilot commentary. Yeah, one of the producers says that the first time Lena Headey fired a gun was emotional for her, which made Summer Glau go, "Aw," which is very sweet. I'm not laughing at her. I genuinely think that's sweet. And Terry Notary helped them figure out the Terminator movement. He worked on the Incredible Hulk and helped out with the movement of both the Hulk and the Abomination. Incredibly talented guy. He helped Alan Cummings figure out the exact way that Nightcrawler should move, which is, again, like, how would you move if you used to perform in a circus? If you haven't completely, it is a natural way for him to move because of this kind of background, because he can teleport. A lot of his movements wouldn't make sense for you or I because we can't teleport and we don't have a prehensile tail, and yeah. And some of these I didn't note down who said it, but one says, even Sarah Connor can fall in love. It's a different Sarah Connor than we saw in T2. She's matured. And, oh, that's right, they did actually say, John programmed the Protector Cameron to say, come with me if you want to live, since that would appeal to him. And Thomas Dekker decided that this John should show more fear. He was more brash and mature than in T2. Oh, wait. In T2, sorry. But now he's a little older and more mature. Yeah. Yeah, brash and immature in T2. And the creator said that he originally wrote the pilot almost as a joke, made it ridiculous, fearing no one would make it. Now, this is where I put the notes for the Blu-ray special feature called Creating the Chronicles. It's 39 minutes and 8 seconds and consists of 3 parts entitled Reboot, Future War, and The Demon Hand. Yeah, they talk about that the movies were chase movies, but we knew that if the show was all chase, then it would get boring for fans. I would use the word tedious, but yes, I would definitely agree. If the moment you have a TV show, it cannot be all chase. Have I ever seen an action show where every single episode was just non-stop action? I'm not sure I have, but yeah, it just, like, even if you only do watch an episode a week or something, it would be too much. You can't, if you keep to that pace constantly, it becomes tedious, and then you can't get more of a kind of a contrasting, at the end of the day, the movies, I'm not sure that, the first movie was made at a time when, like, you didn't necessarily do a lot, like, I don't think that like, let's say you watched the first movie and then immediately after you watched a different movie. I wouldn't say that the first one is really made for that. The same way that, today, a movie like Captain America Civil War or Avengers Endgame. These are not movies that are made to be watched the same day as you watch like 3 or 4 other movies. You know, they're supposed to be the one thing. Otherwise, it's going to be really exhausting. But if you only watch one movie that day, then it's fine for that one movie to be one of those, you know. But a TV show, yeah, you're gonna have to have more. Now, let's see. They talk about Summer Glau working on the Terminator mannerisms. And they talk about episode 7, likening it to a World War II story. Now, what they had originally planned was too big, so they had some of the story set in the present day. They talk about the future aesthetic being inexpensive and low tech to recreate, how the time machine works, which is very interesting. I mean, I'm not going to go into too much detail here because that's not what I'm trying to do here. But yeah, basically they talk about that you need a lot of energy, electricity for it. So it's hooked up to like, I don't know, maybe 8 jet engines. And when, you know, basically it takes what's in the time that it travels from, excuse me, and kind of burns and, excuse me, yeah, the, you know, the exact same place, you know, same where, different when. It, yeah, burns through that reality so that hypothetically, if there was like a building there, it would burn into, you know, similar to, yeah, you do see that in both the second and third movie. Actually, I guess the first, yeah, that, you know, it burns through. Now, and they talk about the new flying HK, the difficulty of building the Terminator endoskeleton as well as prop, how much sleep the poor guy lost over it. One says, I think the writing within the demon hand, yeah, something like that, was probably the most risky in terms of alienating fans. I'll get to that when I talk about that episode. Holy crap, it's almost an hour and a half and I'm just barely done with episode 1. I don't think it's gonna keep taking this long for every single episode. This is me starting to talk about the show. So, yeah. I think for the first time since like 2009. 10, something like that. And they talk about making Cameron look and move exactly like the T-1000 cop and T2. Talk about the adoption papers. Sarah saves Ellison even though it's a danger to her to teach John to, you know, survive well, not only survive. And let's see, excuse me. That brings us to the second episode. Gnothi Seauton. I don't remember how it's pronounced. Or what it means. But it's the second episode. It's the title of the second episode. There's some interesting episode titles on this show. 3 days after they arrive in 2007, Cameron takes Sarah to get new identities from 4 resistance fighters who were also sent back. Finding 3 dead, 1 missing, and another Terminator whom the pair fight off, Sarah likes to visit Enrique to obtain new IDs. Meanwhile, John grows. For a second there, Red growls. Frustrated, being contained in the house, Sarah is told by Cameron that she died from cancer in 2005, and remnants of Cromartie begin to reassemble. The episode ends with Sarah taking tests, clearly frightened by what Cameron had told her. I quite like the episode intro for season 1 with us seeing a robot being built, and it turns out to be a T-888 skeleton. I forget exactly who. It might have been Thomas Dekker who says it's the best show intro for any show ever, and it's definitely up there. I don't know if it's exactly the yeah. John keeps insisting to get new IDs, and now Cameron joins in. A Terminator hid amongst the bodies of resistance fighters to get a surprise attack on the 4th, and instead got one on Cameron. So after the Terminator killed the resistance fighters, he laid down knowing that someone would come looking for them, or rather the 4th one. Very cool motorcycle crash. We'll be back. See, if the first 3 movies are any indication, what she's talking about is that she's going to crash a vehicle into a building in order to get to him. And John can't stay inside any longer and records a voicemail where he says he's the future leader of mankind. Enrique has retired, but that doesn't mean he can't help. John goes to a tech store, of course, finds they were declared dead due to the explosion, which does make sense. They disappeared for 8 years. So far, no one knows they're back. And John didn't realize that his search was being put up on the huge monitor behind him. Are we sure he's good with computers? Like, what was that joke Todd did, I think, like, maybe 2 years ago? Are we certain that Taylor Swift isn't 42 years old or something like that? Because of that line, this sick beat. The robot head reactivates, and the skeleton digs itself out of the wreckage. And of course, a dog barks to announce that there is a Terminator. Oh yeah, that's a really, really awesome. Yeah, that's right. We don't see the skeleton head reactivate. We only see that it's been found and hid in the pilot at the end. And the dog barks at Cameron, so she walks back outside. And Cameron imitates, I want to say Cholo is what they call her, the way she's standing. Cameron was 100% going to murder that cop to keep their secret. Really lucky that Sarah gets there in time to stop her. And she is very quick with the explanation. See, I love this characterization of Sarah, but I'm really not quite sure it fits with the characterization of the second movie. The first, yes. You know, in the second movie, she's smart, but she's also very unstable. In that movie, she did shoot at a cop, although figuring that I forget. Does she shoot the glass or does she shoot near? I want to say she shoots the glass. So, you know, she knows that it's bulletproof glass, and she did it to get his car, not to, but still. But yeah, the thing with, you know, I really love the thing, you know, she like leans on the car, and then he comes out and he explains why he's suspicious of her, and he, you know, I forget if he's walking back to write down the number on the license plate or what exactly, but you know, she immediately walks after him, and Sarah afterwards asks, like, were you gonna kill him? Don't answer that. But yeah, Sarah, you know, she says, what has my adopted daughter done this time? Excuse me. She's always getting into trouble. I told my husband, who's her father, that it was a bad idea to bring her back from private school, but he didn't listen. I will send, you know, and she's like, I will send you back. Excuse me. And the cop says, you're in gang territory. I can't believe it. Okay, we're leaving, you know. Yeah, and she just keeps yelling at her, and the cop is finally like, you know, maybe you should go. It is maybe a bit tasteless to invoke 9/11, say Sarah Connor would have figured it was the robots attacking. And Cameron doesn't take orders from Sarah or John, because it's not this John that she's been programmed by. Excuse me. Excuse me. I forget if I saw someone actually say it or if I just thought someone's gonna say it, but hypothetically, maybe some people are like, why can't you reprogram? Excuse me. Why does reprogramming? Why can only the person who reprogrammed the Terminator give orders to that Terminator? We don't know how complex these things are. It's possible that basically, I mean, if they're originally programmed by Skynet, then they take orders from Skynet. If you reprogram them, then you can, yeah, maybe, excuse me, like a retinal scanner that can only open for one person, or maybe like a breathalyzer if there was only one sober person on it, something like that. I don't think it's a problem. John cannot help but go see Charlie, but he can't let him get close. And Cameron touches the back of John's neck and they share a look, but she did it to scan him and determines he has stress. And of course, the safe behind the kitty poster. I mean, the message of hope is something that John would install in his fighters still. But yeah, it is still a very, excuse me. I mean, I guess they weren't expecting anyone to come in because yeah, anyone who knew that this was a resistance fighter place. Excuse me. And Cameron is electrocuted 120 seconds until the system reboots. But I mean, I forget if we're told, but that does make, I mean, that is in case a Terminator tried to get to their stuff. They could get the drop on him because of that. And the code is Judgment Day, of course. Ain't no way in hell any resistance fighter is gonna forget that date. That sequence of numbers. And Sarah threw Cameron out a window, and her weight crushes part of the roof of the car she lands on. I mean, they do need to get her out quickly, and at this point, it also Sarah doesn't trust Cameron very much, so it is like, she doesn't have a problem with throwing her out the window. Excuse me. And the Terminator returns, but they get away in time. When John was little, Sarah would read The Wizard of Oz to him in Spanish over and over, and Cameron tells Sarah that while John never told her, it was one of the favorite things she did for him. I like that Cromartie puts a motorcycle helmet on, since of course the decapitated head is pale due to being dead, and that would attract much more attention than just a motorcycle helmet. People just think that's a weirdo instead of, holy crap, that guy must be dead, but how is he still walking? The EMT guy lies to his wife and tells her that nothing happened. Let's see, I voice typed Carlos. I'm not entirely sure if that's, but yeah. Didn't realize that Sarah spoke Spanish, or at least enough to know when she's been ratted out. Let me think. And Cameron shot Enrique. You just executed him because he was possibly lying? That's, yeah, I quite like, and yeah, isn't there also a line about that, like, you wouldn't have shot him or something like that. Wouldn't slapping Cameron like that hurt Sarah's hand badly? Similar to how the high five in T2. Cameron and Sarah helped John memorize his new story. Enrique left a message on Ellison's machine. Cromartie is covering his head in a different way, but still covering it. If you look closely, you can see the robot head under there, but most people, I'm not talking about viewers, I'm talking about people who pass him on the street, are not going to look that closely. Sarah's getting tested, and she was told she died of cancer in 2005. The Turk. As Sarah tracks down a new lead into the creation of Skynet, she becomes involved with a cell phone salesman named Andy, who is constructing a chess-playing computer named Turk. John and Cameron attempt to remain inconspicuous in high school, which proves difficult when John attempts to stop suicide. Marty continues its search for biological covering, while Agent Ellison attempts to solve the case of the 3 dead fighters from the previous episode. The intro does a good job of explaining the concept and backstory, although it does make it sound like Skynet itself was the one to send Cameron. And I realize it's the same explanation as in the episode before, but this was where I wrote it down. Good exploration of the killing baby Hitler idea for the scientists who created the atom bomb. I mean, technically she does have a big metal plate in her head, it's just not the only place she has a really big metal plate in her body. It does make sense that Miles' widow, I'm sorry, I didn't get her name, is not entirely upfront about recognizing him in the photo. You know, as she puts it, he might die now. And it might even be in vain. Excuse me. And some transphobia and Hoover remark. I love the flash editing when Cromartie walks in to find the plasma. It really makes it feel more epic. And he noticed that Sarah kept looking over at him. And Sarah pretends to be completely ignorant about cell phones with Annie. It's pretty funny. I have to admit, I wasn't entirely. I think this viewing I did understand what's going on there, but I didn't really on the early viewings. Basically, she's saying if I can press the numbers and talk to someone else, then it's a good enough cell phone for me. That's all I needed to be able to do. Before that, I didn't really get what she was trying to accomplish by what she was saying. And it is charming, if awkward. I don't quite understand why Cameron doesn't simply behave the way that she did before John knew she was a robot, but maybe that's part of that thing that where she doesn't take orders from John or Sarah. Let me think. What's another thing related to that? What was it? So let's see. I'm not falling asleep. I'm not falling asleep on camera. I'm just resting my eyes a little. I think there's a note later in this document about that. I love the robotic voice of Cromartie at this point in the show. She's good. She married the security guard that works at our bank. It's a real meet cute. Actually stopped her from robbing the place. And Sarah immediately notices the robot hand of the chess computer, but doesn't give away her concern to Andy, who thinks it's cool. And that is a clever, especially once you realize that the military is involved. Military might want the computer if it wins the chess tournament. Then it doesn't hurt to have it look kind of threatening like that. It's not like he's trying to sell it to a normal person or something at that point. Sarah spots someone outside in the mirror through a window. She can't find him, but we see that it's the remaining resistance member. Just the barcode on him. So, John asks questions about Turk that Sarah can't answer. John explains the singularity. The resistance worker is 4 years old in the year 2007, so of course, since the time travel, time travel. Wait, they have fingerprints of 4-year-olds in a database? What do? Steal a yoo-hoo from a convenience store? I don't know, maybe it's like there's a thing where they get people's... Let's see. Maybe they take them when they're really young or something. Excuse me. I have no idea if they change over a lot of time or not. Sarah calls Andy about... Let's see. Sarah calls Andy while loading a gun. Cameron is very awkward in the ladies' room. Jordan gives a really great performance. Andy goes past the chess expertise of the Turk in talking about it. Sarah has the loaded gun in the back of her pants, and we're wondering if she might shoot Andy. 2 hours, 3 minutes ago, 4 minutes ago, Cameron and Sarah realized that if they tried to help Jordan, it would attract attention. John has a point. Andy Good must be killed. And we see that Sarah set fire to Andy's house to destroy the Turk. Excellent makeup job from Marty, since he has muscle and or skin again. Let's see. Deeply disturbing appearance, but also one that is very realistic. We later see that he has no eyes covering the pupil, Terminator eyes, and we're told that he ripped, or rather, we're told, the guy must have taken his eyes or something, and he must have ripped them so that he could, let's see. To cover the Terminator eyes. He plucked out the eyes and put them in. Now, there's a commentary track for this episode. I know it shouldn't, but hearing Letty speak with a British accent that comes naturally to her is weird to me, having only seen her in this 300 and 302. Did she have a British accent in those? I forget. Thomas Dekker says he didn't know walking down the street would be in the intro of every episode. He wishes he didn't do the Calvin Klein face he did for it, which I can see what he means. I'm not sure I would have clocked it if I hadn't heard him say it, but yeah. I like that they travel through time in the first. I like that they travel through time and the first thing they do is buy a napkin holder and 2 oven mitts and bracelets. This is the first episode that really starts the plot going. The pilot set up. Excuse me. The pilot set up. Or back in the Terminator universe, the second episode. As a setup with the concept of the show, it's going to be with John going to high school. What's that say? Oh, right. What the plot is going to be with John going to high school, for example. This episode is where the plot really starts, with the Turk, with Cromartie being back. The Untitled in the pilot goes from plaid to leather, and the rest of the show. One of them said there's too many flashy doohickeys on the Turk. It's like a Christmas tree. Thomas Decker, Summer Glau, and Richard T. Jones ask a few questions. So they joke that Lena is the one who cares about the show. One of them talked to a blood expert to get the details right. Thomas Decker explains that the reason Cameron was blending it better in the pilot was then her mission was to get close to John since then her mission has been to protect John. And they also talk about that Cameron does turn it on and off later in the show. And when you really think about her approach to John was kind of weird, immediately asking his name and such. People said they cast a blonde Aiden Panettiere looking cheerleader, and Thomas Decker says, I'm always watching cheerleaders jump, which is, yeah, messed up, but kind of funny. They talk about the Cameron in the hallway. But the makeup is one of their favorite moments. The one who performs the jump in this episode is the one who does the jump for Hayden Panettiere on Heroes. The film a lot for the Suicide storyline, but it ended up not being able to use it. It was cut for time. It is too bad that so much of it is left. I don't remember for sure, but I want to say that a lot of my least favorite plot stuff on the show is related to the John going to high school and such. Heavy metal. While searching through stolen cargo, John becomes separated from his mother. He discovers how unsafe the future has become. Cromartie searches through a database and found a face that would fit. Sarah tells us about the golem story. Sure, it's John. You just seem downer than usual. Who says I blame myself? His chip is intact. We're programmed to repair ourselves. We're programmed to blend in. John wants to wait for the Colton shipment so they can get the drop on Cromartie. John wanted to drive, but Sarah won't let him. And she says to get the shotguns and the C4 under the towels in the bathroom. Which I guess, I mean, if they don't get very many guests, like if a guest borrows the bathroom, uses the bathroom, and then like uses a towel, they might find the C4, but then they don't really have guests. Although police could come over. I think you might have to, anyway. The security guard turned out to have just been a regular human security guard. But they didn't hurt him. The people driving the truck stole it and stole the clothes from the actual workers. If that's the material you're made from, no wonder you're so dense. I love John and Sarah being so sarcastic to Cameron. They did tone that a little bit down, didn't they, over the course of the season? At first, Sarah really does not like having to work with Cameron. But then when Derek comes, then he's the major doubter of Cameron. As such, he is, Sarah almost sort of defends Cameron to Derek's face. Cameron realizes the Terminator they're dealing with is not from Marty. The first on the show that we meet a Terminator that isn't programmed to kill in order to help. To kill members of the resistance. Vick killed to stop. Vick was there to kill, and so is Marty. Yeah, we don't get a name for this guy. I don't remember if this appears again in the next season. And that's not Marty. His endoskeleton points don't match. He's too short. What does that say? And there's a truck full of enemy soldiers. 530 skeletons. That's how many. They actually expected John to just get in the car with them having their backs turned. And that seemed very contrived, that they would just turn it back on. And John is trapped in the truck. John's phone dropped, which means Sarah and Cameron can't track it. The guy in the realizes this. But John knocks him out. John tries to pick the lock without being able to see while the truck is moving at fast speed. He can barely get his hands back there. So that must have taken, he does manage to, if I recall. So that's a nightmare scenario for that kind of task. So it makes a lot of sense that Sarah would make sure to teach him these things. Laszlo lets them take a blood sample, and we finally feel sure that it's not Marty, even though he's being very robotic, which is one of Garrett Dillahunt, not Garrett Hedlund. Who's Garrett Hedlund? Anyway, Garrett Dillahunt's specialties. I really, really like that. Like, when he's like, can we have a little blood? And he just gets out his arm. A lot of people are gonna be like, well, why do you need my blood? But a Terminator might be like, this is the least, if I start a conflict here, I'll endanger my mission. And then she's like, I can't find a vein, which immediately the audience are like, he doesn't have veins, he's a Terminator. And then suddenly he says, you guys are a bunch of fascists, you know that? And then she doesn't say, there it is, but if I recall from her body language, it seems pretty clear that she did manage to find a vein. And yeah, that's the exact right way to handle that kind of scene. It's like, we think that he's being robotic, but he's just he's resigned to it. But then he's still like somewhat defined. You can go if you can get past her and Smash Cut, and he's driving, clearly terrified of Cameron, who smiles at him. Yeah. She's talking to you. And Cromartie now looks exactly like Laszlo and imitates his facial features and then kills him. John is almost discovered and realizes he's in a fallout shelter. Sure seems like Agent Stewart has everything figured out, has an answer to every single question. Kind of feels like he could have told James about it before the meeting, instead of him embarrassing him in front of everyone. And they leave him in a minefield. Obviously, Cameron can tell where mines are and where they aren't, but he can't. Oh, that's right, Carter. They call him Carter. The Terminator's name is Carter. But yeah, he kills the humans now that the job's been done. Excuse me. And then he locks the doors and stands guard, presumably expecting to stand there for years, never moving, until the metal is necessary. Here in a fallout shelter, they'll be safe from the nukes when Judgment Day happens. John is discovered, and Michael found him, obviously thinks that John is the guy who killed Mike's co-workers. John tries to keep Mike from getting Carter's attention. Mike goes up to get the money from Carter, pushes him over, which gets him active again, so he kills Mike. Cameron realizes that Carter must be in standby mode and tells them that 15 seconds is the reboot time from standby mode. Sarah tells them to run the instant the door opens. Again, a very, very cool kind of, because it does make a lot of sense. Why would he be in, it would be a complete waste of battery power if he was constantly in the kind of mode for, excuse me, yeah, where he's especially effective if he expects to wait a long time. And John realizes he can't open the door without the key, which is around Carter's neck. Excellent tension as John lifts the key off Carter, being careful not to touch him directly and trigger him awake. And Carter stops the truck by pushing it from the front so that Sarah, let's see, yeah, she blasts him with the shotgun. Cameron casually walks out, taking the keys so that the door would be, sorry, Carter will be locked inside the shelf. And John didn't know how to drive a stick. Excuse me. And James senses there's something off about Laszlo, even though he's just driven. He's just there to warn Laszlo that someone's trying to steal his identity. Cameron drives the robots. Drives the truck off a cliff, getting off her stuff just in time. There's no way that the robots will be able to get all that metal out of the water. And Cameron kept some of the metal without telling the cars. Okay, here we go. I zoomed in a little further. This should definitely help. I don't know why I'm suddenly so sleepy. This really... Okay, let's see. I guess... Okay. Right, so there are cast audition tapes. With really great acting. This is Summer Cloud dance rehearsal. I don't really have ballet rehearsal. I don't have any comments on that one. And there's a storyboard animatic. If I recall, we see Ferguson, or Cromartie, start to cut open his leg so he can get out the gun earlier in the actual episodes, which I do think is a great way to build more tension, and it feels like something that belongs in James Cameron Terminator movie, revealing that it's a Terminator and then building to the confrontation. Similar to when the Terminator enters the nightclub in the first movie, and when we see him walking in the mall with a box of roses in the second. Queen's Gambit, Episode 5. When Sarah's friend Andy reveals that he reprogrammed his chess-playing prototype and is going to submit it into a chess competition, she worries that about the computer's capabilities and comes face to face with a man who's been following her. Cameron gets called into grief counseling. John makes a new friend in shop class. Marty poses as the FBI agent Robert Kester. And Agent Ellison finds a Terminator hand. Let's see. And John learns about chess in Central America. Andy calls Sarah and says he's checking into a chess tournament and that the fire was a blessing in disguise. Marty's posing as an FBI agent, similar to how T-1000 posed as a cop. Unreal that I'm this sleepy. They discuss the Turk. You can't be absent. Absent gets you on the radar. Which seems like all the more reason to not go to high school at all. Anyway. Sarah meets Dimitri and Andy talks about the military contract that the winner of the chess tournaments get. Yeah, tournament. Makes sense for Cromartie to talk to Charlie. If you see or hear anything, call me anytime. I don't sleep. And Cameron doesn't understand the purpose of writing the notes for Jordan. But I thought people cry when they get sad, or at least when they badly need to go to the bathroom. We get a slightly better look at Derek, and he's wearing a coat similar to the one Kyle Reese wore in the first movie. The camera pans next to the smiley face. is Cameron, and then an electronic dog barks at her as she watches the skin of her face. I do think that was a cute little variation on it, that even a robot dog barks at the Terminator. And Cameron walks in ready to kill Andy. I like Charlie's new fiance. She's smart. And the Turk lost. Derek Reese bumps into Sarah, and she finds Andy shot to death. She gets ahead of Derek, and they struggle. She wins the fight, but he does get away, but the cops stop him. Sarah feels bad about Andy, and Sarah's still doing, I don't know, chin-ups or whatever they're called, like at the start of the episode and at Pescadero in the second movie. Cameron suggests Sarah write a note about Andy for him. They realize Derek is the fourth resistance member, the only remaining member of the South in that apartment, and Cameron and John discuss what to do with who he is. It does. I don't love the retcon that you can apparently fit 4 people in a single time travel bubble, but I do. I mean, what are they gonna do? Have Sarah, John, and Cameron travel individually, and then Derek's mission be nothing other than, for him to be completely alone, and just wouldn't have the same effect. Vick recognizes Derek, so clearly he too was hacking the LAPD database, just waiting to spot Derek. And he goes up and punches a cop, so he'll be arrested as well. Yes, I can be strong. I didn't mean physically. And Cameron perfectly reproduces the last thing that Jordan said. I couldn't quite tell if that actually is the voice of the other actress or it's just a really good impersonation. Cameron. See this, I'm not 100% sure, but I feel like that the teacher, the grief counseling teacher that Cameron is talking to is the one, the teacher or whatever, who was having sex with Jordan. And that Cameron realizes that that's the case, but not 100%. She says, "Is there anything else you want to tell me?" And he says, "I don't think I told you anything." And just, it sounds like he's worried that Jordan revealed something about the affair. And James talks to Derek. The first thing that Derek Reese says to James is asking what the forensic evidence linking the people is, and he's told that technically it's synthetic blood, and he obviously realizes it's a Terminator repair. He doesn't he doesn't say, "Oh, but I'm innocent," or "I want to talk to my lawyer," or anything. No, but the moment that he's told about forensic evidence, he wants to know what it is. What does that say? We see the Terminator being transported, and Sarah lies to calm the teacher down about Cameron. Let's see. Derek lies and claims He didn't kill Andy, told Sarah. He was only... He was only going to talk to him, and it must have been somebody else who killed him. He was dead when I got there. And the Turk was gone. I hope you died, but if you're here, the Turk is still out there, so we both fail. And Derek says the Terminator's after him and we'll get her too. And Derek doesn't know that Sarah knows Kyle. Or maybe he's lying so that she will be even more determined to rescue him. I mean, if he... I guess the idea is that he doesn't... He must be pretending because... Or I guess he doesn't know that Kyle was sent back in time at all. He never found that out. And he didn't put two and two together. Actually, yeah, that works. And Vick breaks out of his cell into Derek's with ease. I call shotgun. I call 9mm. I mean, it was a pretty good guess that that's how that particular human ritual goes. You know, what? How was she supposed to know that shotgun had nothing to do with... Yeah. I love the escape from the prison transport, and of course Derek assumes that... Let's see, it's a different Terminator, not Cameron. And Derek doesn't trust Cameron since she's a Terminator, reprogrammed or not. And Vick gets on the prison transport and he and Cameron fight. Cameron slams Vick into and through the side. Sarah knocks one of his arms off. Derek says they should leave behind Cameron and immediately gets in front of both Connors when Vick is about to shoot and even takes a bullet for them. Cameron helps save Derek's life by correctly diagnosing that he's dying, needs proper medical treatment. This is crazy, alright? Even for you, this is insane. Sarah tells John that Derek is his uncle. John runs to get Charlie to help save Derek's life. James has a hard time believing that the prisoner... The prisoner was freed like that. But then he finds the Terminator hand. Sarah points out how chess differs from real war. And John returns with Charlie right after we stop. After Derek stopped breathing. Okay. That takes us to 6th out of 9. Dungeons and Dragons. And Economy for Pets. While receiving medical treatment, Derek Reese, Green, has flashbacks of his life, future, and his personal battle against the machine. Meanwhile, Sarah finds herself trying to explain the past to Charlie. Excuse me real quick. Okay. Sorry about that. sequencing camera. Crap. Right, so Derek is certain the camera is lying and won't let her sedate him. And we get our first Future War flashbacks on the show. And I'm not going to give away whether there are any in season 2. Now, very reminiscent of one of the 2 flashbacks Kyle had, the one in the bunker. We see Andy Good, though he is referred to as Wisher. And they go topside, and we get a good view of future LA. It looks great. Pretty good fight in the Future War, although it seems like those HKs could easily have killed them. The spotlight was right on them, but I guess it's one of those things where they weren't looking to kill them. And again, the IMDb facts suggests that they just wanted a lot of human blood to grow skin for the cyborgs, which helps explain why he needs so much blood. Is that all? It seems like a lot. Gun to your head? More like in my head. And we keep getting the little bits and pieces of the flashback throughout. I guess the secret weapon that they were talking about is the time machine. Let's see. Good sound effects on making the endoskeleton seem extremely heavy, and Cameron picks it up with ease. And we see the barcode being burnt into his arm with a laser scanner. And Cameron lists reasons and then literally says, we should let him die. Andy confesses to Derek that he thinks he built Skynet. Cameron methodically disposes of the Terminator. And that really is incredibly creepy. She has to, before she can burn the skeleton with thermite, almost his entire body has to have the flesh removed, which is something like a Terminator can do that, Dexter can do that. I don't think there's not very many others who could do that. Normal people would never be able to get through something like that. And she doesn't even need alone time afterwards or something. Yeah, so the reason that Derek is so low on blood is because they took a lot of his blood to grow more Terminator skin and such. And the base was found and destroyed. And I thought maybe the flashback from the first movie, the bunker busting Terminator happened, but we're then told Kyle was not there when it happened. Let's see. See, this Terminator skeleton looks completely convincing. It looks like they built a prop instead of using CG. You know, little girl, you freak me the hell out. On the outside, you're as pretty as a picture. But the inside, let's see, hybrid combat chassis. Is that a complicated way of saying robot? Cybernetic organism. Living tissue over metal endoskeleton. Okay, scary robot. Let's And here you are carving up this guy. He's not a guy. He's a scary robot. Okay, he's a scary robot. You're a very scary robot. It's a really great exchange, and and the thing with not a robot, cyborg, cybernetic organism, living tissue of metal and skeleton. That's it's said differently and such, but it's very similar to some of what Kyle, some of the exposition that Kyle tells Sarah in the first movie. And Derek recognizes Cameron as a Terminator and is told that she's been reprogrammed. And we see in the future a reprogrammed Terminator snaps and mows down human beings. Sometimes they go bad. No one knows why. So Cameron did save Derek's life, but it's also one of those things like, how can he be sure she won't one day go bad just like that? Hmm. Sarah and Charlie still love each other. In the future segment, Cameron can access the retinal scanner and Derek sees the time machine. We don't see adult John, but it is a nice cut back to present day John. Now all four freedom fighters go in one time machine jump, and Derek's gonna fix all the mistakes, as he puts it. John wants to tell Derek that Cal is his father, but Sarah walks in, so instead he says he was a hero. Sarah quoting Kyle from the first movie here in the voiceover is kind of lame. It's one of the I don't have very many negative things about the show, but yeah, it's a it's a good line. I think it worked in Genesis when it's also said there, but other than that, you really do need someone like shouting it with yeah. And we see that it was Derek who shot Andy. So he lied to Sarah Connor's face when he said he didn't. Let me just real quick. Um, so that takes us to episode 7. The Demon Hand. When Sarah breaks into Agent Ellison's apartment looking for the missing T-Trouble Endo arm, she finds dossiers, files and videos from her stay in the mental hospital, and John learns what it took her to his command. The files lead Ellison to a hospital psychiatrist, Dr. Peter Silverman, a doomsday convert who made Sarah's hospital stay unbearable. I realize, like, when you know exactly what it means, it works. But if you just read that, you would think that he was the one who believed in doomsday, and that was why her stay was unbearable. But anyway, I just feel like it wouldn't have been difficult to reword. I mean, just like literally, Dr. Peter Silverman, who made Sarah's hospital stay unbearable, now a doomsday convert. You don't have to make it much longer if that's why they're anyway. Meanwhile, Cameron enrolls in a ballet class taught by Dimitri's sister in an effort to track down his whereabouts and find out who has the Turk. I don't necessarily have a problem with this depiction of Silverman, the character being in a very different place than in the movies. Certainly it makes sense that, yeah. But Bruce Davison, talented though he is, looks nothing like Garbo. Now, these notes are based on the extended version, so if you haven't watched that, and I say something in this section that makes absolutely no sense to you, well, there's at least a part chance that that's why. Cameron poses as a cop and breaks in. Zara visits Andy's grave. Ellison claims he never saw a hand, and immediately we see that he does have it in a box, but of course he doesn't want to give it up to anyone. Which actually, this might be the first time he openly intentionally lies to his colleagues and such. She's hesitant to take John's hand. Ellison watches footage from Sarah Pescadero in her room. She wrote the camera. So this monologue retcons Sarah as always hating machines long before the events of the first movie. She felt like it was her fault that her dad left and that Janie died, which of course made her even more determined to protect John. Her losing her temper at the end of the tape felt a little forced, like they just badly wanted to homage the scene in T2 where that's what happened. It should have just ended with her staring off into space for a few seconds, and then it had reached the end of that particular recording, so it went to static or something. She had remained completely calm up to that point, even when talking about her dead friend. I mean, comparatively, there, let's see, there are in Terminator 2, we see one, like, taped incident where talking about all the things that went wrong, but there it is this sort of gradual, she's not ever, as when she's talking about something that's horrifying, she is clearly horrified herself. And then let's see, yeah, then later in the movie, actually maybe it's right after we see that recording, I forget. She talks very calmly to Silverman, hoping to trick him, and when he calls her on it, she leaps over and attacks him. Basically, it's not a very tactical decision, but it's still very clear that, like, it's because she knows that she's not going to get to see John or even call him. But in this, yeah, in this bit, it's one of those things where they knew what they liked about it, but maybe didn't completely understand why it worked in the source material. And Cameron is at ballet recital. And Cameron asks to be taught the advanced ballet move and immediately perfectly imitates it. Now, I'm not entirely sure if she was hired because she could dance ballet so well, or if they hired her and then later found out she was, a ballet dancer, and then write the ballet thing. I mean, ballet and Russians do go hand in hand, So it's possible they wrote Dmitri at least partially thinking about ballet. When they were writing Dmitri, the writers were partially thinking. Cameron asks to be taught the advanced. Sorry. I forgot to scroll. There we go. Your upper body is a little mechanical. Cute. Dance is the hidden language of the soul. It's a program. The guns are loaded the same way every time. Go into my bedroom again, I'll bust your head. John watched one of the tapes and is clearly upset with Sarah about it. And we see, she signed away her parental rights. Derek, alone with Cameron, is tense. I like the bit where, I forget if it's this place exactly, but she eats just a little bit of pancake. Like, he's like, oh, so you're not hungry? And she takes this tiny little bite, which, yeah. You might have fooled them, but not me. I know you. I know you too. That's a very, very good, like, I mean, she's basically threatening him right back. He is saying, I know that it's, I'm watching you. And she's like, I don't trust you any more than you trust me. Silverman seems genuinely well adjusted until Ellison says he'd like to talk to him about Sarah Connor. And then he mentions that he lives without machines, including even phones. Silverman drugged Ellison, and Ellison realizes, but by then it's already too late. I can help your brother. Tell me where he is. And to test if Ellison is human or not, Silverman stabs him right in the knee. Which is exactly where, let's see. Oh wait, no. Sorry, no one stabbed in the, I'm thinking she broke his arm. And she stabbed a syringe into that other guy's butt cheek, but she didn't stab anyone in the leg. But the leg near the knee, around that, is where where Arnie shoots a lot of cops and SWAT in the second Terminator movie. And Silverman admits to accidentally killing a hiker who used too strong a dose of drugs in the tea. Calls it an honest mistake. Silverman reminisces seeing the two Terminators in T2 at Pescadero. The title might be a reference to the Holland Ellison story, Demon's Glass Hand, which may have helped inspire the Terminator. I approve. The ballet teacher takes Cameron to Dmitri, her brother, and Dmitri caused the Turk to lose so that they could get the Turk out of there since the military no longer wanted it. And Cameron just leaves and walks right past the criminals who killed both the ballet teacher and Dmitri over the money, because saving them was not her mission. Finding the Turk was her mission. Something that's always bothered me a little bit about this is, why do they just walk right past her like that? But then I guess they didn't see her come out of that door, so they thought she had nothing to do with it. They thought that if she did have something to do with it, she would turn around when the gunfire started, maybe. Or, yeah. So I feel like it wouldn't have been difficult to have, like, to stage it just slightly differently, so that there would be a, yeah. And it's also partially that they wanted to make it like, if Cameron wanted to, she could very easily have stopped at least those couple of criminals. It's possible that they, I mean, she would still be in danger, but those exact ones, and again, she doesn't like turn back when she hears them gunned down. Sarah, of course, punches Silverman, even though he did apologize. But some things you can't quote unquote just apologize for. It's not enough. Hurt hurts. And Sarah took the hand, and Silverman laughs in a maniacal sort of way. Did you kill them? No, it wasn't my mission. And see, again, that's why she didn't kill them, because it wasn't her mission to. If killing them was her mission, she would have killed them. So this retcons that she broke out because she was giving up John for abortion. I mean, in the movie, the reason is that she knew there was a Terminator out there. I feel like that is quote unquote enough. I don't mind. I get like some people. I didn't really read the message boards for this, but I could imagine some people think it's basically like character assassination to reveal that, you know, Sarah actually did. I don't think it's character assassination, but I don't think that it's, what's the word? I just wish they hadn't used it for that. I don't think that it should have been. You know, I get the thing of, you know, she genuinely believed that it was. Yeah, I don't agree with it giving it being equivalent to giving up. If she does not believe she'll ever be able to get out of there, then it's not giving up. It's going with the flow, or however you want to put it. Let's see. What was the other thing? It was something I wanted to write down. I forget what. Excuse me. There. Okay. There was a time I was a hero to my son. He thought I could walk on water. If I walked on water, I would drown. And Ellison gets Silverman committed. In T3, originally wanted to show the nukes, including Silverman dying in a blast. That is just petty and bitter. Him here ending up committed for paranoid delusions and criminal activity is dramatic irony, much like the rain that Silverman was found in. I quite like. I think this is you know, again, this ignores the events of Terminator 3. And also, yeah, I mean, you can't have both. Either Silverman was, convicted in. Oh wait, no, excuse me, no, it does. Excuse me, it definitely the series retcons T3 for sure. Anyway, so yeah, basically, I mean, in the first movie, Silverman says I could make a career out of this guy. In the second one, he has made a career out of Sarah. And then in this one, it hits him because at the end of the day, yeah, you go nuts with if you know things like that, it just drives you crazy. Let's see. Derek, the person who has the least faith in Cameron, even less than, let's see, what? Sarah must have been, anyway, is the one who witnesses Cameron doing the difficult ballet move. Her doing ballet doesn't seem to be related to any mission of hers. It's not going to help her blend in. Not that many people can do ballet. If she does in a public place to try to convince someone she's human, it's just going to look very weird to them. So the reason she does it must be that she appreciates its beauty. So maybe she does have a soul, basically. Is what I'm getting at, and what the show was getting at. What is that? They don't have to kill us. They will be us. Now, there are 2 deleted scenes. The monologue of Sarah's and the classroom scenes at Ohm's Law. As far as I can tell, they're the same as in the extended cut of the episode. It's just, they were finished even though they weren't aired. The other stuff wasn't finished, which is why there's incomplete sound and such. Okay. That brings us to Vick's ship, episode 8. John and Derek are at odds when John disagrees with Derek's suspicions about Cameron, while Sarah attempts to revive the Turk. Sarah, John, Cameron, and Derek work together to disable Skynet's future surveillance. I've never smoked a little marijuana. It's quite funny. Because he takes the it's a direct, like, he's being told exactly what to do, so he just does it. It's like if if someone said, like, don't tell me you root for, let's see, no matter what team name I say, I'm gonna piss someone off. Let's see, don't tell me you root for Canadian sport. There, I don't piss anybody off. And then the other guy just goes, okay, I won't. It's that kind of, yeah. And Derek reveals that Cameron saved the chip. They argue about if they can trust Cameron or Derek. John asks, and Cameron answers sometimes she lies to him about important things. Cameron points out if they give the chip too much power, we'll be able to do strategic mission analysis and such. And we find out that Vick, the T-888, was married. Derek believes that Vick killed his wife. John's friend really wants to impress Cameron, and she sweetly goes along with it, saying his first tattoo is tight. She's basically just trying to trying to pass, I guess is the, excuse me. And I'm sorry, I don't know her name, so I'm just gonna call her Damaged Goods Girl. Yeah, I guess, this is the first time that I made any note about her, even though she's been in several episodes before. Yeah, she gets upset when John says he knows she's from Wichita, and she says she's not. They heard her wrong. Cromartie walks into the showers to find John. I'm really glad Cromartie's in an episode again. I do think it's too bad that he was missing for episodes 6 and 7. I think it would have been nice if they did give him something in those episodes, even if only briefly. You've been doing that for 20 minutes now, with my toothbrush. And she throws out the toothbrush. And then she's like, I got your own. And now it's mine. And they realize Vick killed his wife, Barbara, after gaining her trust. They find the body and realize that's not Vick's wife. It was a lobbyist fighting the traffic lights. But was he protecting Barbara's work or Skynet's work? I guess that's why they say we can't fight City Hall. Whoever said that didn't have as much plastique as we do. And they talk about Sarah's time as a waitress. Kyle and Derek lived in the tunnels under City Hall. I have to admit, I have never understood why. Again, I watched the show when it originally aired, watched it again in 2015, watched it again. I mean, I watched this episode maybe yesterday or a couple of days ago. I do not understand. The guy handing out those papers, asking John, does John have stuff in his locker? Is Cromartie an arc? He's so gleeful. I mean, if he's trying to prove that he's no longer on any drugs, it's probably not a good idea to be so gleeful. And Cameron scans Cromartie and can tell it's him, probably from comparing the skull and structure of the face. And Cameron tells Morris that, I need you, and grabs the shirt, and he's really happy. And then she sends him in so he, to pretend that he's John, so Cromartie won't look for John there anymore. And Cameron doesn't tell John about Cromartie, and John's friend absolutely loved pretending to be John. The actor playing Barbara does amazing acting in this episode. She's so utterly convincing, and she's always playing directly to the camera. There's never another actor almost never another actor in shot with her. It's really incredible. When you think about how much, like, she's literally talking to someone who doesn't respond almost all of the time. And it's just. And Vick urges Barbara to finish work on Artie, no matter what happened to him. Yes. Let's see. I was kind of. Yeah. And Cameron tells John Cromartie found John's school. And Vick followed one of the 3 resistance fighters to find their hideout, so Cameron wasn't lying when she said it wasn't her who told him about the safe house. Sales was following Barbara Chamberlain. It was one of the many leads that the 4 resistance fighters had in the safe house. Data centers on B4 and after. And let's see. The system blocks the virus, so they have to arrive. Cool fight as Sarah takes out the 2 security guards. Derek was going to shoot the cops, and Vick is reactivating. It's really, really cool. And it makes sense, like he said, John says it doesn't store memories like we do, or something like that. It stores them by mission and location, something like that. And that makes sense for a computer to do it like that. We should be very careful with Vick's chip. Again, I'm not sure I've heard other people say this, but you'll notice that John doesn't immediately pull the chip itself out. He pulls out a couple of electrical plugs. I think if he did touch the chip directly, when there's that many electrical, it might be too much. It might, like, what's it called? Overload or whatever. he might get an electrical shock when he pulls out the chip. So him pulling out some of the electrical wires before touching the chip at all, I think makes sense at least. And John has to cut through Cameron's head to access her chip. And John is going to plug Cameron's chip into a traffic light. And Derek thinks Cameron is the one who creates Skynet, that this is her plan. It's very clever because that might, yeah. If Vick can pretend to be, like, if he can fake a marriage for all that time, why wouldn't Cameron be able to, pretend to be a good bodyguard until, yeah. And similar to how Sarah is about to destroy Arnie's chip in T2 in the special edition, Derek, gets the Cameron's chip and is clearly about to do something, And he says, I want you to hear this in no uncertain terms. Someday one of these is going to kill you. It won't be this one. That's very, very good. Yeah. And predictably, killing all the traffic lights means the traffic stops. The day the earth stood still. You killed Andy Good. There was no one there to protect, and you killed him. You lie to me again, I'll kill you. And that's the, not if you kill someone I don't know about, but just don't lie to me. And Vick bought tickets to Tahiti for himself and Barbara, and then choked her to death in the shower. That's, yeah, because he no longer needed her. And again, there's a twisted, what's it called, detached logic to it. He stayed with her so that he could encourage her to complete the project with Artie, and he even he killed that one lobbyist and all this stuff. But then once she's completed Artie, his mission there is complete. And now if he says I want a divorce, then that might attract attention to him. But saying that they're both gonna the people she works with are gonna think that she went to Tahiti, and by the time they realize she, they should by now have heard from her. By then, he won't be near her anymore. That's 2 shower scenes in 2 minutes. That's kind of excessive. Let's see. And this is where I put the notes from the gag reel. It's 3 minutes and 35 seconds. It's so humanizing to see such great actors crack up, pull faces, and the like. And Lena Headey and Thomas Dekker sound so out of character here. Sound so different out of character here. And that brings us to the finale. What He Beheld. Excuse me. Negotiation for the Turk proves tougher than expected with a mysterious businessman, Agent Ellison, and an HR team. Sorry. I mean, that would probably not be very effective either. An HR, no. Sorry. An HRT team try to take down Cromartie, posing as FBI agent Robert Castro. Derek takes John out for his birthday, where they meet the young brothers Derek and Kyle Reese, John's father. Cameron's fate is left unknown as the first season comes to a close. This episode makes prominent use of Johnny Cash's song "The Man Comes Around." I quite like the opening with the Why? Remind me again why the boys are in here while the girls are in there. Because one of the boys is still wanted for murder, and one of the girls is, what was it he said, tough as nuclear nails, and the other one's a cyborg. That's pretty good. Yeah, nuclear nails. I mean, I get tough as nails and tough enough to withstand a nuke. I don't know. It's an interesting mixed metaphor, is all I'm saying. And Agent Ellison finds out about the supposed Agent Kester. I have no idea what video game the Latino gang are playing, but I want it, and I want it right now. Badass sword use. How brave a boy are you? I think they're both Proud Boys. And Sarah points out why Charlie can't come back. I love Sarah and Derek discussing whether to give the diamonds to Sarkissian. The whole thing with, technically those diamonds are mine. Technically, well, I believe what was it? I don't. Technically, they're evidence in a, what did they say? Grand larceny? I forget exactly what it was. Sarkissian has people watching John. I'll call the FBI if he doesn't walk. I like the thing about birthday. Do I have a birthday? Were you born? I was built. Maybe you have a built day. Cameron tells Morris the car belongs to the guy who was following them, that she killed and stuffed in the trunk. Morris thinks, oh man, she's really into it. She's cool. She's goth. Yeah. And John gets Cameron to agree to go to the prom with Maurice, and I think they also say on the commentary, oh, that's, Morris. Morris is best. Yeah. The voice typing got it. That's Maurice. I know his name is Morris. That's the best days. And he's like, "Would you go to the prom with me?" And she just looks. She's not quite sure what to say. And John says, "Just say yes." Yes. Yeah. Ellison sees the image of Agent Kester and knows that it's Laszlo, who he already suspects is the Terminator. I like Ellison taking the elevator right before Cromartie gets off the other elevator. It's very reminiscent of Silverman. Let's see, not, him not seeing the Terminator. In the first movie, is he leaves the police station and the Terminator arrives at the police station. Now, let's see. Do your thing. I got my eye on them right now. I mean, that's not even remotely a lie. It's just the voice she's using that's fake, but yeah. It's the Cholo. And the camera cuts before she explains anything. So the audience doesn't see her say a word, which is a lot like Navajas in Desperado. I love it. Can you get through the door? Yes. But the wall would be much faster. Really badass. You're just smashing it. And then, of course, it turns out there was another way out of there. The little girl gives a really great performance. I mean, she has to play some really, she plays like scared and sad, and like when John first sees her, she's like really happy and cheery. Nothing scary has happened to near her yet. So. And Sarkissian has John as a hostage, and Derek brings up a little girl holding her hostage. Not my kid, not mine either. So Sarkissian thinks Derek might actually shoot the kid, and he does have enough humanity to care about that. But Derek covers the girl's eyes and shoots Sarkissian, so he too had some humanity left. He was never going to shoot the little girl. He was just willing to pretend that he would. And I mean, yeah, it's nice of him to cover her eyes so she doesn't see the man die. And Sarah asks, "Was that your daddy back there?" No. So that's, you know, I really appreciate that the show kills him before we know if that is, it's like, yeah, I mean, it's somewhat similar to with Miles, that they, excuse me, and that actually, that is the thing in part of the reason that Sarah is unable to shoot Miles in C2 is that the kid is right there. So is Derek willing to kill someone right in front of a kid? And I mean, kind of, sort of, you might say, he does kill the guy. He just doesn't do it in a, yeah. Now, you go find your daddy. Don't look, don't look back. Just go. It's kind of reminiscent of that one line, from Terminator Genesis. You can do this. You just go and you don't look back. Cholo barely even reacts to camera asking if she needs, do I need to kill you now? And then she hands her the gun instead. Wouldn't it have made more sense for Cromartie to kill Ellison? Because now Ellison, I mean, yeah, Ellison for sure knows that he's a robot now. So why does it seems like tactically it would make more sense for him to kill him, but I'm guessing it's one of those things where, well, he doesn't consider him currently dangerous to him. And Ellis explains to the female agent about the George Laszlo plastic surgery theory, even told her he doesn't think that Kester is human. Early in this episode, did John say last year his mother gave him a flak jacket for his birthday? They were living with Charlie Dixon. What exactly did he think of that birthday present? Why didn't he bring that up when talking to Agent Ellison the first time? I'm almost certain John said last year rather than like a couple of years ago or something, which would have, anyway. Nobody can keep all of the canon. It's, completely, yeah. And John realizes that Derek took John to meet his father, although as a child at age 5, of course. How the heck? It says we're on page 13 of 46. Yeah, it's gotta be 23 of 46 or something. Anyway, this uses When the Man Comes Around by Johnny Cash incredibly well. I mean, in general, I really love that song, even though I'm not Christian. And I can understand, if you listen to Johnny Cash, I could see how that could convert someone to Christianity. But I love the use here. I love the use in Dawn of the Dead. Let's see. And Charlie hears on the radio that it's Agent Kester involved in the shootout. It is pretty wild that Cromartie took that little damage. There's very, very little of his metal skeleton that's actually visible, even though he was in a fight with that many SWAT. I mean, that first one obviously wasn't able to shoot him. The door bursts open and he gets, but there at the end, like, clearly there was at least a partial firefight because he's right there next to the pool, which just makes it a little confusing that there is so little. Yeah, it was the house settling. What's that line from the POV? Settling for what? Settling for being a crappy house? It's not a crappy house. It's a nice house. Anyway. Now, like I said in my old vlog, the fact that we only see them thrown into the pool is maybe a little tame. I'm not gonna lie, I really would have preferred seeing all these guys squibbed, but yeah. Or, not even necessarily squibbed, but just let's see him shooting them instead of just seeing them. I get that they're dead. I get that he's not just throwing people randomly into a pool. We see several of them are clearly bleeding when they land in the pool. So, yeah, it's not that, but still. I don't think that was Sarkisian. I really love when movies and TV shows do that. What? Let's see. And Cameron gets in the car and it blows up when she turns the key. Now, part of the explosion was CG, and it was a little obvious when that was the case. So, to sum up, the real Sarkisian is still out there and now knows a ton about them, and he was able to blow up Cameron. Now, when I record this video, I have already watched the entirety of Season 2, so I do know what happens with Cameron. Well, I'm not gonna lie, I don't really remember what happens with Sarkisian and the Turk, but it's a good way to end. It's a great way to end Season 1. You badly want to know what happens in the next season. And that was obviously a big part of it. It's a great finale and a great season. But let's see. Wow, 3 hours. I am almost done. I did not expect this to last anywhere near this long. But yeah, let's see. I do think that essentially the action climax was the SWAT team. I do think that should maybe have been closer. I mean, from when that ends to when we see Cameron blown up, I think at least a couple of minutes pass, and maybe it's supposed to be lulling the audience into a false sense of security. I do think that it would have been a really good idea to, let's see, yeah, to have it more of a, I don't know, maybe that's just because, maybe that's watching it now already knowing what happens with Cameron, I don't know. Now, that takes us to the commentary for this episode. Yeah, I'm not sure who said it, but what is that? One of the coolest intros I think ever to a show. This is our season finale, so the previously on is as long as the rest of the episode. I think every single character, let's see, human or cyborg, that has been on the show so far is in the previously on. I can't comment on that because I watch all the episodes off the regular, where it skips the previously on. Summer Glau did great accents, and she said the reason she could do a great Russian accent is that she's been yelled at in Russian for years, studying ballet. They talk about they didn't just want him to be the Les Miserables cop. I know that's not the title back then. Anyway, the show explores what it would do to a Christian to deal with this kind of prophecy. Which, again, yeah, I absolutely agree. I think it would be too bad if it was just one note. Excuse me. They talk about Derek's facial hair. They talk about that Derek almost never blinks. Excuse me. The show creator says that he didn't want to do a birthday episode on a Terminator show because it would be like 90210. And Ryan Austin Green, of course, jokes there's nothing wrong with 90210, since he was on that show. It seems like genuine ribbing. I don't think the other guy thought about that. Yeah, I mean, that was like or it started 20 years earlier than this, more or less. 89, I want to say. I don't think I've ever watched any of that show. And I don't think I've seen Brad Austin Green in anything other than Terminator. Excuse me. There. Apparently, Summer Glau walks like a dressage horse when she plays Cameron, at least some of the time. She made the decision to do that, and one of the producers or something recognized it without having asked if that was what, excuse me, when they watched her do it. Now, in Garrett Dillahunt's audition, he apparently dialed a cell phone with mouth movements because it was in the stage direction, and the show creator admits that was a bad idea. And then for some reason, Garrett Dillahunt didn't want to do another audition. For some reason, he was like, I already did an audition for you guys. Why did you not put, why is that not on camera? And if it is on camera, why is it not on the Blu-ray? I would love to see that. That would be so funny. Wow. But yeah, I mean, it's yeah, I don't, I have no words. Excuse me. I need to get this thing. There we go. The show creator loves the Cholo and loves they found a way to shoehorn her into this episode. How she hasn't spoken all season. She's getting revenge for her homies. Cameron said, my brother plays chess too, so someone thought that meant the Turk was her brother, and so they joke on the commentary track maybe the siblings should be reunited on the show. And they talk about, let's see, about Derek letting John meet Child Cal is manipulative. It takes him away from his own family, even though it is a nice thing to do also. The episode is about Charlie and Ellison and how the two of them could have stopped the massacre of the SWAT team if they had been completely honest with each other. There's going to be a lot of survivor skills in season 2. Always be scared when there's a close-up of a key going into an ignition. They didn't know what they were going to do in season 2, who the bad guy who planned the car bomb was going to be, what they were going to do about Cameron blowing up. Now, there are a number of reviews of this season. I'm going to start with the Rotten Tomatoes. And again, I'm going to try, these are online. Anyone can go and read these. Let's see. I guess I do. Let's see. Yeah, this is unfortunately dead air since I didn't know for sure what of this I was going to read aloud, but let's see. There's hmm. Okay, that was I've reread the Rotten Tomatoes ones. Now there are some Metacritic ones. Let's see. Right, and Metacritic user reviews. And yeah, almost all of them. See, I did read all of these before, but I haven't read them again recently. Just gonna try to skip to the end. Yeah, there's yeah, that is it. And considering that it's been 3 hours and 23 minutes, that's probably a good thing. I did not expect. I sincerely doubt that the next video like this will be, I won't spend that long on a single episode. And yeah, I could imagine with 22 episodes, I might get up to 3 hours and 23 minutes. Now, do I have anything great to close this on? I think it's a little unfortunate that the season is cut short, but was it maybe the writer's strike? I forget. This is one of the only shows I know where the writer's strike happened in the first season. Most of the other shows it was a little, but yeah, I don't know. Anyway, let's see. Yeah, I think it as a first season, I feel like every episode gives you plenty of reason to keep watching and to tune in next week. And yeah, the season finale, the fact that it ends on Cameron getting blown up, and now they have to deal with, what are they? The Turk and Sarkisian are still out there, and yeah, that's let's see. So yeah, it starts out great, ends great. Briefly got it right down. Yeah, I don't really disagree with any of the casting. I've already mentioned I like this Sarah much better than the Terminator 2 Sarah. Same for John Connor. This John Connor over the Terminator 2 John Connor. I, I think that they did a great job acting in those movies. It's really the writing that bothers me. I just I don't know. I also really don't know how they're gonna square, like, I mean, if Sarah was so unstable in the second movie, how is she a capable fighter in certainly from the trailer it looks like Terminator 6 does the yeah. Now let me think. Cameron's one of the most interesting Terminators, regardless of gender and backstory. I think it was smart to not go for someone who is literally, like, basically, actually Arnold Schwarzenegger. Garrett Dillahunt, I mean, he's not tiny, but he's not like a giant mass of muscles like Arnie was in 1984. I don't think it would have made a lot of sense to go for that look again, because you're not gonna nobody if there's anyone who looks more impressive than 1984 Arnold Schwarzenegger as far as muscles go, they probably look ridiculous, especially by today's standards. If the movie came out today and it was always kind of ridiculous that someone's a body like that was playing a role like that. I don't think it's ridiculous. Like Commando, for example, he is supposed to be this, but why would they make someone who would draw so much attention to be an infiltrator? And ultimately, it was because of just his presence. And Garrett Dillahunt has a very different kind of presence. Yeah, I'm really really glad that they didn't try to, and that the Terminator, the reprogrammed Terminator, is not a father figure, because again, I mean, you're not gonna. It wouldn't be that interesting after T2 to. They change enough things around that it's interesting. But yeah, let's see, Terminator 2 and yeah, let's see, they don't. I really like they do a lot of interesting things with Cameron. Now, let me think. I guess that is it for this video. So, I hope you enjoyed watching, as I enjoyed watching and recording. I'll catch you next time.